William stood outside Westminster Abbey as morning fog drifted through London streets. His fingers trembled slightly while adjusting the medals on his chest. Kate emerged from the royal car with practiced elegance, helping Charlotte smooth her cream-colored dress. George checked his reflection in the car window one last time, straightening his small tie with serious concentration. Louis giggled as a palisade tried to tame his unruly hair. Inside the waiting room of the Abbey, the atmosphere felt different from usual royal events. Kate knelt down to Charlotte's level, speaking soft words of encouragement. The little princess nodded solemnly, understanding this day held special meaning for their family. William noticed George practicing his walk, taking measured steps across the stone floor. His eldest son wanted everything perfect for this unprecedented ceremony. The morning preparations had started before dawn at Kensington Palace. Kate personally selected each child's outfit, choosing colors that would photograph well against the Abbey's ancient stones. William helped George with his cufflinks, sharing a quiet father-son moment about responsibility and heritage. Charlotte sat still while her mother braided her hair, weaving in tiny pearls that caught the light beautifully. Louis proved the biggest challenge, darting between rooms with boundless energy. The youngest Wales child didn't fully grasp why everyone seemed so serious. Kate caught him mid-run, explaining in simple terms about the special blessing they would receive. His blue eyes widened with curiosity rather than understanding. William couldn't help but smile at his youngest son's carefree nature. The palace staff worked efficiently around the family, ensuring every detail met royal standards. Ancient protocols merged with modern sensibilities as this ceremony broke new ground. Never before had young royal children received such recognition at Westminster Abbey. William and Kate had spent months planning this moment, balancing tradition with their desire to honor their children's unique positions. As the clock neared the ceremony time, nervous energy filled the preparation chamber. George asked his father countless questions about the Archbishop and what words he would say. Charlotte practiced her curtsy repeatedly until Kate gently stopped her, assuring her daughter she was already perfect. Louis found entertainment in his shiny shoes, tapping them against the floor until William scooped him up. The sound of bells echoed through the Abbey walls, signaling the approaching moment. Kate felt her heart rate quicken as she gathered her children closer. This ceremony represented more than royal tradition. It symbolized their family's evolution and the delicate balance between public duty and private parenthood. William caught her eye, offering silent support that spoke volumes about their partnership. Outside the preparation room, distinguished guests filled the Abbey pews. The Archbishop made final adjustments to his ceremonial robes while reviewing the specially crafted service. History would remember this day as a turning point in modern monarchy. The Wales family prepared to step into that history, each member playing their part in reshaping royal traditions. Charlotte reached for her mother's hand as they lined up near the door. George positioned himself beside his father, shoulders squared with determination. Louis wiggled in William's arms, still treating everything as a grand adventure. Kate took a deep breath, channeling the poise she'd developed through years of public service. The ancient wooden doors began to open slowly. Light flooded through the entrance as organ music swelled majestically. William felt the weight of centuries pressing down while simultaneously lifting him up. His family stood ready to enter Westminster Abbey, not just as royals, but as parents and children bound by love. Kate squeezed Charlotte's hand reassuringly as they prepared to walk into history. This moment would crown their family journey with meaning beyond any physical crown. The heavy wooden doors opened fully as William led his family into Westminster Abbey's main sanctuary. Hundreds of guests rose from ancient pews, while organ music filled the vast space. Kate felt Charlotte's grip tighten as they stepped onto the famous black and white checkered floor. George walked beside his father with measured steps, his young face maintaining remarkable composure. Louis had finally settled in William's arms, mesmerized by the soaring ceiling above. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, painting rainbow patterns across stone pillars. The Archbishop stood at the altar wearing ceremonial robes that seemed to glow in the ethereal light. Government officials occupied front rows alongside European royalty, who had traveled specifically for this unique ceremony. Kate recognized familiar faces from their years of public service, each person understanding the significance of today's events. The procession moved slowly down the central aisle as planned. Charlotte's eyes darted between architectural wonders and the sea of watching faces. Her small feet stepped carefully in white ballet flats chosen specifically for their silence on stone floors. George kept his gaze fixed ahead, remembering his father's advice about maintaining focus during important moments. The weight of expectation rested differently on each small shoulder. William felt overwhelming pride watching his children navigate this grand setting. Years of preparation had led to this moment where tradition would embrace the next generation. Kate moved with practiced grace despite her internal emotions. She had transformed from a university student into a future queen, and now watched her children follow similar paths of destiny. The journey seemed both eternal and instantaneous. Whispers rippled through the congregation as the family approached the altar. The Archbishop's kind eyes crinkled with warmth, immediately easing the children's visible tension. He had spent hours with William and Kate crafting words that would resonate with young minds while honoring ancient customs. This ceremony would bridge centuries of tradition with contemporary family values. The golden crown rested prominently on its purple cushion, jewels catching light from every angle. This wasn't the monarch's crown, but a special ceremonial piece selected for today's blessing. Its presence symbolized continuity rather than immediate power. George studied it intently, understanding through his parents' teaching that crowns represented service more than privilege. Charlotte seemed equally fascinated by the sparkling gems. Louis suddenly pointed at the crown with typical toddler enthusiasm. His clear voice echoed through the Abbey, asking why it sparkled so brightly. Several guests chuckled softly while Kate whispered a gentle explanation. William shifted his youngest son to a better viewing position, grateful for the moment of levity. Even in such formal settings, their children remained authentically themselves. The Archbishop raised his hands for silence as the processional music faded. His voice carried centuries of authority when he welcomed the congregation to this historic blessing ceremony. Kate guided Charlotte to her designated spot, while William positioned George accordingly. The choreography had been rehearsed but felt entirely natural in execution. Each family member understood their role in this unprecedented event. Television cameras captured every detail for global audiences watching live. Millions witnessed this modern royal family writing new chapters in ancient books. The Archbishop began explaining the ceremony's purpose, emphasizing how today honored the Wales children as future servants of the nation. His words carefully balanced formality with accessibility, ensuring young ears could comprehend their importance. William caught Kate's eye as the Archbishop spoke about duty and dedication. They shared a moment of silent communication perfected through years of partnership. Their children stood between them, bridges connecting past traditions with future possibilities. George maintained his composure admirably while Charlotte fidgeted slightly with her dress hem. Louis had discovered the acoustic properties of the Abbey, softly testing echoes. The preliminary remarks concluded as the Archbishop prepared for the actual blessing ceremony. He gestured for the family to step closer to the altar. Ancient stones beneath their feet had supported countless monarchs throughout history. Now these same stones would witness a new kind of royal moment. The congregation held its collective breath as the blessing ceremony prepared to begin in earnest. The Archbishop motioned gently for George to step forward first. William placed an encouraging hand on his eldest son's shoulder as the boy moved toward the altar with remarkable poise. Kate watched proudly while keeping Charlotte and Louis close beside her. The Abbey fell silent except for the soft rustling of ceremonial robes as the Archbishop positioned himself for the blessing. George stood perfectly still as instructed during their rehearsals. His blue eyes focused intently on the Archbishop's face rather than the glittering crown nearby. The holy man began speaking words crafted specifically for this moment, blending ancient blessings with modern understanding. He spoke of leadership through kindness and strength through compassion. Each phrase had been carefully chosen to resonate with a young mind while maintaining ceremonial gravitas. The blessing acknowledged George's future responsibilities without burdening his present childhood. William remembered receiving similar words decades ago, though in different circumstances. Now watching his son receive this honor, he understood his parents' emotions during his own ceremonial moments. Kate dabbed discreetly at her eyes as the Archbishop placed a gentle hand on George's head, speaking final words of blessing. When George returned to his family's side, his face glowed with quiet pride. Charlotte immediately stepped forward before being called, eager for her turn. The Archbishop smiled warmly at her enthusiasm, adjusting his approach for the spirited princess. His blessing for Charlotte emphasized wisdom and grace, qualities already evident in her young personality. She stood remarkably still, absorbing every word with surprising maturity. Kate felt her heart swell watching Charlotte receive recognition typically reserved for much older royals. The Archbishop spoke about using privilege to serve others and finding strength in gentleness. Charlotte's curtsy at the blessing's conclusion was flawless, earning soft murmurs of approval from the congregation. She practically floated back to her mother's side, clearly pleased with her performance. Louis had been remarkably patient but began wiggling as his turn approached. William carried him forward, whispering last-minute reminders about standing still. The Archbishop's eyes twinkled with amusement as he adapted the blessing for the youngest Wales child. His words celebrated joy and wonder while gently introducing concepts of duty. Louis managed to remain relatively still, though his feet tapped rhythmically against William's chest. The congregation chuckled warmly when Louis enthusiastically waved at the crown during his blessing. The Archbishop incorporated this spontaneous moment seamlessly, speaking about finding happiness in service. Kate stepped forward to help William manage their energetic youngest while the blessing concluded. Louis's genuine delight in the ceremony brought smiles throughout the Abbey. With individual blessings complete, the Archbishop invited the entire family to approach the altar together. They formed a small semicircle facing the congregation while he spoke about family unity and shared purpose. The crown served as a focal point, representing not individual power but collective responsibility. William and Kate stood behind their children, hands resting protectively on small shoulders. The Archbishop's voice rose as he delivered a family blessing that would echo through history. He spoke of the Wales family as bridges between tradition and progress, duty and love. His words painted a vision of monarchy that served rather than ruled, that connected rather than separated. Television cameras captured tears on numerous faces throughout the congregation. Music began softly as the blessing reached its crescendo. The choir's voices merged with the organ's deep tones, creating a soundscape that seemed to lift the very stones of the Abbey. Charlotte reached for George's hand while Louis continued his happy wiggling. The gesture of sibling unity wasn't rehearsed, but emerged naturally from the moment's emotion. As the Archbishop concluded with ancient words of benediction, sunlight burst through the eastern windows. The timing seemed divinely orchestrated, bathing the family in golden light. Kate felt William's hand find hers as they stood behind their children. This moment transcended ceremony to become something deeply personal yet universally significant. The Archbishop stepped back, allowing the family a moment to absorb what had just occurred. George stood a bit taller while Charlotte beamed with accomplishment. Louis had discovered that clapping echoed wonderfully in the Abbey and began testing this theory. The congregation remained respectfully silent, understanding they had witnessed history being written in real time. The blessing ceremony reached a particularly moving segment as the Archbishop invited the children to touch the ceremonial crown. This break from rigid protocol had been William and Kate's special request. George approached first with reverent curiosity, his small fingers barely grazing the ancient gold. The metal felt cool beneath his touch, its weight surprising even without lifting it. Charlotte followed her brother's example, but with characteristic boldness. She traced one of the crown's decorative elements, while the Archbishop explained its symbolism. Each jewel represented a different virtue that future leaders should embody. Kate watched her daughter's face transform from curiosity to understanding as the meaning became clear. This tactile connection to history would remain in Charlotte's memory forever. Louis required both parents' assistance to reach the crown safely. His chubby fingers immediately went for the largest ruby, causing several guests to smile. The Archbishop used this moment to speak about childlike wonder being essential to wise leadership. William felt his youngest son's excitement vibrate through his arms as Louis discovered his reflection in the polished gems. The Archbishop then produced 3 smaller items from beside the altar. These were specially commissioned pins bearing the Wales family crest intertwined with Westminster Abbey's symbol. He explained how these would serve as permanent reminders of today's blessing. George received his pin with solemn dignity, while Charlotte immediately wanted to wear hers. Louis tried to eat his before Kate gently redirected his attention. As the children examined their gifts, the Archbishop addressed the wider congregation about witnessing this historic moment. He spoke eloquently about monarchy evolving to meet contemporary needs while honoring timeless values. The Wales children represented hope for an institution that could remain relevant through genuine service. His words resonated through the Abbey's ancient acoustics. Kate felt overwhelming emotion as she helped Charlotte pin the commemorative badge to her dress. This small gesture symbolized so much more than decoration. It marked her daughter's formal recognition within an institution that would shape her entire life. William experienced similar feelings while assisting George, remembering his own childhood ceremonies and their lasting impact. The formal portion of the ceremony began drawing to a close as the Archbishop offered final prayers. He called upon divine guidance for the young royals, asking for wisdom beyond their years and compassion to match their positions. The congregation joined in responsive readings that had been simplified for young voices to participate. George read his lines clearly while Charlotte needed slight prompting from Kate. Louis provided unexpected entertainment by attempting to sing along with the hymns. His enthusiasm made up for his lack of accuracy with the words. Several elderly peers in the front rows smiled fondly at his innocent participation. William and Kate exchanged amused glances over their son's head, grateful for his ability to lighten formal moments. The Archbishop gestured for the family to turn and face the congregation for the ceremony's conclusion. Hundreds of faces gazed back at them, with expressions ranging from joy to reverence. Camera flashes created a constellation of lights throughout the Abbey. This image would appear on newspaper front pages worldwide by tomorrow morning. William felt the historical weight of the moment while maintaining focus on his children's needs. George stood proudly beside him, while Charlotte waved subtly at familiar faces. Louis had discovered that his pin made interesting clicking sounds and began experimenting with this new toy. Kate gently stilled his hands while maintaining her composed expression. The organ began playing the recessional hymn as the ceremony officially concluded. Unlike traditional royal events, this ending included a receiving line where selected guests could greet the family. The Archbishop had suggested this addition to make the ceremony more personal and memorable for the children. Palace officials initially resisted before William and Kate insisted on this modern touch. Distinguished guests began forming orderly queues as the Wales family prepared to greet them. Charlotte practiced her curtsy one more time while George straightened his tie. Louis seemed more interested in the organ music, conducting an imaginary orchestra with enthusiastic arm movements. The mixture of formality and childhood charm perfectly encapsulated this unique ceremony spirit. The receiving line began with the Prime Minister approaching the Wales family. He spoke warmly to George about the ceremony, while Charlotte waited her turn impatiently. Kate guided the interaction skillfully, ensuring each child had meaningful moments with the dignitaries. William noted how naturally his children handled these formal greetings despite their young ages. European royalty followed, including Crown Princess Victoria of Sweden, who brought small gifts for the children. Charlotte immediately bonded with her over their shared love of horses. George engaged in surprisingly mature conversation about environmental conservation with Prince Frederick of Denmark. These interactions revealed how well William and Kate had prepared their children for public duties. Louis created a memorable moment when he offered his ceremonial pin to the Queen of Spain. His generous gesture melted formal protocols as she knelt to his level for a proper conversation. Kate translated his toddler observations about her sparkly jewelry while maintaining diplomatic grace. The exchange became one of the day's most photographed moments. The Archbishop remained nearby throughout the greetings, offering gentle guidance when needed. He seemed particularly pleased when Charlotte asked thoughtful questions about the Abbey's history. Her curiosity about the coronation chair surprised several historians present. George showed similar interest in the scientific aspects of the building's construction, revealing knowledge beyond his years. Moving through the receiving line, the family encountered teachers from the children's schools. This inclusion had been Kate's specific request, recognizing education's crucial role in their development. Charlotte's ballet instructor received an enthusiastic hug, while George formally shook hands with his science teacher. These personal touches humanized the otherwise grand ceremony. William noticed his children's energy beginning to flag as the line continued. Louis had started the wiggling that preceded toddler meltdowns. Kate discreetly produced small snacks from her purse, a practical mothering moment amid ceremonial grandeur. The Archbishop suggested a brief break, understanding young attention spans had limits. During this pause, the children explored the Abbey's immediate vicinity under careful supervision. George gravitated toward memorial plaques, reading names of historical figures he recognized. Charlotte found fascination in the geometric patterns of the floor tiles. Louis discovered that his voice created different echoes in various corners. Their natural curiosity transformed the ancient space into an educational playground. The ceremony's photographer captured candid moments between formal shots. One image showed Kate adjusting George's collar while he explained something earnestly. Another caught William lifting Louis to see a particularly high stained glass window. Charlotte appeared in several shots practicing dance steps on the historic stones. These informal pictures would become treasured family memories. The Archbishop gathered the family for the ceremony's final segment. He presented a special book created for this occasion, containing messages from Commonwealth leaders congratulating the children. Each page featured beautiful illustrations alongside simplified explanations of different nations. The book would help the young royals understand their future global connections. As the receiving line resumed, the children interacted with representatives from various charities supported by their parents. A young disability advocate spoke with George about accessibility improvements in historic buildings. Charlotte learned about wildlife conservation from an environmental scientist. Even Louis participated by high-fiving a therapy dog handler. These encounters emphasized service over ceremony. The final guests included veterans who had served with William during his military career. George listened intently to their stories while maintaining respectful posture. One elderly veteran gave Charlotte his campaign medal, moving Kate to tears. Louis saluted enthusiastically, causing gentle laughter among the former service members. These connections bridged generations through shared values. Time for departure approached as the receiving line concluded. The Archbishop offered final private words to each family member. His blessing for their journey home emphasized carrying the ceremony's spirit into daily life. William and Kate expressed profound gratitude for his guidance in creating this meaningful experience. The children said their goodbyes with varying degrees of formality. Palace aides coordinated the family's exit strategy while maintaining ceremonial dignity. Charlotte needed the bathroom, requiring quick diplomatic maneuvering. George helped by distracting guests with mature conversation. Louis had reached his limit and required carrying despite his protests. Kate and William managed these practical challenges while preserving the event's formal nature. The family's departure from Westminster Abbey required careful orchestration. William carried an increasingly tired Louis, while Kate held Charlotte's hand firmly. George walked independently, but stayed close to his father's side. The Archbishop accompanied them to the main doors, offering final words of encouragement that only the family could hear. Outside, London's afternoon sun had broken through earlier clouds. Crowds gathered behind barriers erupted in cheers as the Wales family appeared. Charlotte waved enthusiastically while George offered more reserved acknowledgments. Louis had perked up at the noise and began blowing kisses to the delight of onlookers. Kate and William guided their children through this public moment with practiced ease. The short walk to their waiting car became an impromptu photo opportunity. Professional photographers captured every angle while tourists held phones high overhead. William noticed how naturally his children now handled such attention. George automatically straightened his posture, while Charlotte's smile never wavered. Even Louis seemed to understand the performance aspect of public appearances. Inside the car, the formal facades finally dropped. Charlotte immediately kicked off her shoes, while George loosened his tie. Louis had already removed his jacket before William could stop him. Kate laughed at her children's swift transformation from royal representatives to regular kids. The contrast perfectly illustrated their unique childhood experiences. During the drive back to Kensington Palace, excited chatter filled the vehicle. Charlotte couldn't stop talking about the crown's jewels while George analyzed the Abbey's architectural details. Louis contributed nonsensical observations that somehow made perfect sense within family context. William and Kate exchanged satisfied glances, recognizing the ceremony's success through their children's enthusiasm. Back home, the palace staff had prepared a special tea to celebrate. The formal dining room featured child-friendly foods alongside traditional options. Charlotte immediately reached for chocolate cake, while George selected sandwiches first. Louis managed to cover himself in jam within minutes. Kate didn't mind the mess, understanding her children needed this decompression time. William's mother's portrait washed over the family gathering. He felt her presence strongly today, knowing how proud she would have been. Kate noticed his momentary reflection and squeezed his hand supportively. Their children carried Diana's legacy forward through their natural warmth and genuine interactions with people. The ceremony had honored past and future simultaneously. As afternoon faded, exhaustion caught up with the youngest Wales. Louis fell asleep in William's arms mid-sentence. Kate carried him upstairs for a proper nap while the older children continued discussing their experience. Charlotte practiced her curtsy repeatedly until George teased her about becoming stuck in that position. Their sibling dynamic remained unchanged despite the day's formality. The palace communications team arrived to review public response. Initial reactions were overwhelmingly positive, praising the ceremony's blend of tradition and modernity. Social media buzzed with images of Louis's spontaneous moments and Charlotte's poise. George's mature bearing had impressed royal watchers globally. The event succeeded beyond expectations in humanizing the monarchy. Kate returned from settling Louis to find William helping Charlotte with her commemorative pin. She insisted on wearing it with her pajamas, making both parents smile. George had already placed his pin carefully in a special box, treating it with reverence beyond his years. These different approaches to the same memento revealed each child's unique personality. Evening brought quiet reflection as bedtime approached. William read to George from a history book about Westminster Abbey, connecting today's experience to broader context. Kate braided Charlotte's hair while listening to animated recounting of every ceremony detail. Their daughter's memory proved remarkably accurate for such a young participant. These bedtime rituals grounded extraordinary experiences in normal family life. The parents met in their sitting room after tucking in all three children. Exhaustion mixed with exhilaration as they processed the day's events. Kate poured tea while William loosened his formal attire completely. They sat together on the sofa, finally able to speak freely about their observations and emotions. The next morning brought a return to routine despite the previous day's grandeur. Charlotte insisted on wearing her ceremonial pin to breakfast, carefully pinning it to her school uniform. George emerged already dressed, having woken early to read more about Westminster Abbey's history. Louis appeared in dinosaur pajamas, blissfully unaware that his image dominated international news coverage. Kate supervised breakfast, while William reviewed the day's schedule. Normal family chaos resumed as Charlotte spilled orange juice and Louis flung cereal experimentally. George tried to maintain dignity while secretly enjoying his siblings' antics. These ordinary moments felt particularly precious after yesterday's formality. The contrast reminded both parents why they fought to preserve normalcy. School drop-off proceeded as usual, though Kate noticed other parents' knowing smiles. The ceremony had made headlines worldwide, but the school community maintained respectful distance. Charlotte's teacher congratulated her quietly, while classmates seemed more interested in playground games. This protective bubble around their education remained crucial for the children's development. Back at Kensington Palace, William and Kate met with their private secretaries to discuss public response. Newspaper coverage proved overwhelmingly positive, praising the ceremony's innovative approach. Social media metrics showed particular engagement with candid family moments. The Archbishop called personally to express his delight with how smoothly everything had proceeded. Professional success matched their personal satisfaction. International reactions poured in throughout the morning. Commonwealth leaders particularly appreciated the children's individual recognition. European monarchies praised the ceremony's modern elements while respecting tradition. Even Republican voices acknowledged the event's tasteful execution. The global response validated William and Kate's careful planning and collaborative approach. During his lunch break from royal duties, William visited George's school for a scheduled parent-teacher conference. His son's instructor reported excellent academic progress and mature classroom behavior. She particularly noted George's increased confidence since the ceremony announcement. The experience had positively impacted his school performance and peer relationships. William felt profound satisfaction hearing this feedback. Kate spent her afternoon at Charlotte's dance recital, watching their daughter perform with characteristic enthusiasm. Other parents treated her normally despite yesterday's high-profile event. Charlotte's natural stage presence shone through every movement. Her ballet teacher mentioned how the princess had described the Abbey ceremony as like dancing, but with words. This innocent interpretation delighted Kate immensely. Louis attended nursery school as usual, where staff reported he'd spent morning circle time describing the sparkly hat in great detail. His classmates seemed more interested in his snack choices than royal ceremonies. This age-appropriate response pleased Kate, who collected him at normal time. Maintaining routine nursery attendance kept Louis grounded despite extraordinary experiences. The family reconvened for afternoon tea, a daily tradition Kate insisted upon maintaining. Charlotte demonstrated her curtsy repeatedly, while George corrected her historical facts about Westminster Abbey. Louis contributed by building block towers and knocking them down enthusiastically. William arrived from his engagement to find this cheerful chaos, immediately joining floor-level activities. Evening brought homework, supervision, and bath time battles. Charlotte required 3 reminders to complete her spelling, while George worked independently on mathematics. Louis's bath became an aquatic adventure requiring multiple towels. These mundane parenting tasks felt particularly grounding after yesterday's pageantry. Both William and Kate treasured these normal family moments. Bedtime stories that night included questions about the ceremony from all 3 children. Charlotte wanted to know when she could wear a real crown, while George asked about the Archbishop's training. Louis simply requested the sparkly hat story again. William and Kate took turns answering questions and weaving yesterday's experience into broader life lessons. After the children slept, the parents reflected on the ceremony's lasting impact. They discussed how to build upon this foundation while protecting childhood innocence. Future royal duties would increase gradually, always balanced with normal experiences. The Westminster Abbey ceremony had set a precedent for modernizing ancient traditions. Their children would inherit a monarchy more connected to contemporary values. Kate reviewed photographs from the ceremony, while William answered official correspondence. Images captured both formal poses and spontaneous joy, creating a comprehensive record. One particular shot showed all 3 children touching the crown simultaneously, their faces reflecting wonder. This unscripted moment embodied everything they'd hoped to achieve. Tradition and innovation had merged seamlessly. Weeks passed as life settled into familiar rhythms, though the ceremony's impact lingered subtly. George began showing increased interest in British history, asking William detailed questions about previous monarchs. His newfound curiosity extended to visiting museums and historical sites voluntarily. Teachers reported he'd started a school project about Westminster Abbey entirely unprompted. Charlotte's confidence blossomed noticeably following her ceremonial recognition. She volunteered more frequently for school performances and spoke up during class discussions. Kate noticed her daughter practicing royal waves and mirrors, though always with characteristic humor. The ceremony had validated Charlotte's natural inclination toward public engagement without forcing premature responsibility. Louis remained largely unaffected, though he occasionally mentioned the shiny building during random conversations. His nursery artwork featured numerous crowns mixed with his usual dinosaur obsessions. The ceremony existed in his memory as a particularly interesting day rather than a life-defining moment. This age-appropriate processing pleased both parents immensely. William incorporated ceremony lessons into ongoing royal preparation for the older children. He explained how their Westminster Abbey experience connected to broader constitutional roles. These conversations happened naturally during car rides or walks rather than formal sessions. George particularly engaged with discussions about service and duty, showing maturity beyond his years. Kate focused on emotional processing, ensuring each child felt comfortable expressing any feelings about the ceremony. Charlotte confided feeling nervous about future expectations, while George worried about making mistakes publicly. These honest conversations allowed both parents to address concerns before they became anxieties. Louis contributed by declaring he wanted more sparkly hats, making everyone laugh. The commemorative pins became treasured possessions, displayed differently by each child. George kept his in a special case on his desk, treating it with museum-worthy care. Charlotte wore hers regularly, rotating between school uniforms and casual clothes. Louis's pin migrated frequently, appearing in toy boxes and backpacks randomly. These varying approaches reflected individual personalities perfectly. Public appearances continued normally, though subtle changes emerged. The children showed increased poise during family engagements, understanding their roles more clearly. Charlotte's curtsies became second nature, while George's handshakes conveyed genuine warmth. Even Louis managed longer periods of appropriate behavior, though his spontaneity remained intact. The Archbishop visited Kensington Palace for tea, wanting to check on the family personally. He brought a photo album containing historical images from previous royal ceremonies at Westminster Abbey. The children pored over pictures, asking countless questions about traditions and customs. This informal education deepened their connection to the institution they'd someday serve. International invitations arrived from other royal families, inspired by the ceremony's innovative approach. Crown Princess Victoria particularly wanted Charlotte to visit Sweden, recognizing a kindred spirit. These developing relationships would prove valuable as the children grew into their roles. William and Kate carefully selected which invitations to accept, prioritizing educational value over social prestige. Media coverage eventually shifted to other stories, allowing the family breathing space. The ceremony's success had earned significant goodwill, translating into more respectful coverage generally. Photographers maintained appropriate distances during school runs, while reporters focused on official engagements. This improved media relationship benefited the entire family's well-being. The palace announced plans for annual services at Westminster Abbey involving the children. These wouldn't match the original ceremony's grandeur, but would maintain meaningful connections. George expressed excitement about returning, while Charlotte planned her outfit choices months in advance. Louis asked if the sparkly hat would attend, showing his unique perspective on formal events. Private family discussions revealed the ceremony's profound personal impact on William and Kate. They'd successfully created a moment honoring their children while respecting institutional requirements. The experience strengthened their confidence in raising royals who understood service before privilege. Their parenting philosophy had proven compatible with constitutional responsibilities. As summer approached, the family planned a private vacation to decompress from public duties. The children needed normal experiences to balance their extraordinary lives. Sand castles and ice cream cones would replace ceremonies and protocols temporarily. These deliberate breaks from royal responsibilities kept their childhoods as typical as possible given circumstances. The Westminster Abbey ceremony had marked a milestone, but life's rhythm continued purposefully unchanged. 1 year later, the Wales family returned to Westminster Abbey for a commemorative service. The children had grown noticeably, both physically and in maturity. George walked with increased confidence, while Charlotte's poise seemed effortless. Louis still bounced with energy, but showed better understanding of when stillness was required. Their parents observed these changes with mixture of pride and wistfulness. The anniversary service maintained smaller scale than the original ceremony. Close family members and key participants gathered for prayers of thanksgiving. The Archbishop welcomed them warmly, commenting on how much the children had grown. His familiar presence comforted all three, who remembered him fondly from their special day. This continuity provided stability within their evolving lives. George requested to read a passage during the service, surprising his parents with this initiative. He chose words about service and humility, delivering them clearly despite nervous hands. Charlotte followed with a musical performance, playing piano with remarkable skill. Louis contributed by placing flowers at the altar, managing not to drop them despite obvious excitement. Each child participated authentically. The ceremonial crown made another appearance, though handling protocols had relaxed considerably. The children viewed it with familiarity rather than awe, understanding its symbolism more deeply. Charlotte asked intelligent questions about its history, while George studied craftsmanship details. Louis still found the sparkles fascinating, but no longer tried to grab it. Their evolved responses showed genuine maturation. After the service, the family hosted reception for Abbey staff who'd helped organize the original ceremony. William and Kate wanted to express personal gratitude beyond official thanks. The children mingled naturally, remembering names and showing genuine interest in people's roles. Their behavior demonstrated values their parents consistently modeled. Service staff particularly appreciated Louis's enthusiastic high fives. Private time in the Abbey allowed for family reflection without public scrutiny. They walked through areas not seen during the ceremony, exploring chapels and monuments together. George read historical plaques aloud while Charlotte sketched architectural details. Louis discovered echo spots, though his parents managed volume control better now. These educational moments happened organically within the sacred space. The Archbishop joined them for this private exploration, sharing stories about the Abbey's lesser-known history. He showed them hidden details in stone carvings and explained ancient construction techniques. The children absorbed information eagerly, asking follow-up questions that revealed retained knowledge from the previous year. Their intellectual curiosity pleased both parents and their spiritual guide. Returning to the main sanctuary, the family sat quietly in pews where congregation had witnessed their ceremony. Kate felt emotional remembering the day's intensity while William squeezed her hand supportively. The children sensed this reflective mood, sitting unusually still without prompting. Even Louis seemed to understand the moment's significance, leaning against his mother peacefully. Photography captured this anniversary visit, though images remained private for family albums. One particular shot showed all 5 family members looking up at stained glass windows together. Their unified gaze symbolized shared purpose and mutual support. These personal documents would matter more than any official portraits as time passed. Leaving the Abbey, crowds had gathered hoping for glimpses of the royal family. The children waved naturally, comfortable with public attention when appropriate. Charlotte's smile appeared genuine rather than performed, while George's acknowledgments showed warmth. Louis blew kisses with characteristic enthusiasm, bringing joy to onlookers. Their public personas had developed without losing authenticity. The car ride home buzzed with conversation about the visit. Charlotte declared she wanted her wedding there someday, while George discussed architectural preservation needs. Louis announced plans to be very tall next visit, making everyone laugh. These different perspectives on the same experience highlighted each child's unique personality development since the ceremony. That evening, The family gathered for quiet dinner at home. William and Kate had arranged for the children's favorite meals, keeping celebration low-key. They discussed the day's visit and compared it to the previous year's ceremony. All three children expressed gratitude for their special experience, showing emotional maturity that touched their parents deeply. Looking back over the year since Westminster Abbey's unprecedented ceremony, William and Kate felt profound satisfaction. Their decision to honor their children formally while protecting their childhoods had proven successful. The experience had strengthened family bonds while preparing the young royals for future responsibilities. They'd created a new template for raising royal children in modern times. As bedtime approached on this anniversary day, each child treasured their commemorative pin before sleeping. George polished his carefully while Charlotte kissed hers goodnight. Louis tucked his under his pillow for safekeeping. These simple gestures revealed how deeply the Westminster Abbey ceremony had touched their young hearts. The crown had blessed more than tradition that historic day. It had crowned a family's love with purpose, duty with joy, and ancient customs with contemporary values. Their story would inspire future generations seeking to balance heritage with humanity, proving that even within palace walls, family comes first. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.